From the time I stepped in the door, I sensed a lot of frustration and anger amongst people who had been there for a long time about working conditions, pay, benefits.
Things that weren't setting well with us was the fact that you had to wait 2 decades to reach top salary.
I was paying $60 a month rent, and I needed half my paycheck to pay that. So I knew we had to do better.
The wages we were earning put us in a position we were eligible for welfare in New York City, and a number of letter carriers did apply and received welfare.
The mood on the work floor, everybody was tense, everybody was scared.
It was a tough decision. You know, I had just purchased a house. I had 2 children, you know, my wife, you know, like everybody else.
Those letter carriers that had the 25 and 30 years, who were World War II vets, had already put so much on the line in their service to their country, and then now we're risking everything. Those folks will always be heroes to me.
We wound up at a meeting and we called for a strike vote.
Manhattan Center, 34th Street. And we got there. My God. We thought we was going to be in the front row. It was impossible. It was packed.
So when they called the meeting to order, I'm looking to see the president or the general officers. They wasn't there. So this one guy got up and started speaking, and it happened to be Vince Zimbrato.
We were impressed. I know I was impressed with him, you know, being that he was from the neighborhood. But aside from that, he was a firebrand. He was, let's get the show rolling.
And they're starting now to count off the machines. Machine number 1, strike, 2-1. Machine number 2, strike.
And we all went and we voted for that strike. And I was scared. Yes, I was scared.
And I remember Gus Johnson, who was the president of Branch 36 at the time, made an announcement to the media that letter carriers are on strike as of 12 midnight.
For the first time ever, letter carriers went on strike, and mail service in and out of New York was suspended.
We want to go back to work, but we don't want to go back under collective begging. We want to go back under collective bargaining.
Remember that in order for letter carriers or any other postal workers to get a raise before collective bargaining, an act of Congress had to be passed. And over again, we would plead our case to Congress to no avail. The first reports started coming in that other branches in the New York metro area were going out, and we would cheer every time we'd hear about that.
That Pittsburgh went out, and Philadelphia, and wow.
In Minneapolis, carriers voted after the Washington Agreement to strike at midnight tonight, saying Congress has consistently given us promises. We're not going to work merely for more promises.
Defiance began early in the morning here in Chicago when about 50 mailmen on the picket line voted to stay on strike despite a back-to-work court order.
Well, what if what you're doing is illegal?
I don't care. Now, I know it's against the law. That's in the Constitution. It's in my contract. If they want to put me in jail, put me in jail. But they haven't got a jail big enough to put all of us in.
Some visible early effects of the mail strike. Stock market volume was down. Much more business was transacted by telephone and teletype, special messengers carrying stock certificates and documents normally handled by mail. In the financial district, there was no way to schedule a stockholders meeting because there was no way to notify the stockholders or mail out the proxy statement.
We stopped a whole lot of things. We stopped Wall Street. We stopped a lot of businesses, insurance companies. All this came through the mail.
I have just now directed the activation of the men of the various military organizations to begin in New York City the restoration of essential mail services.
They could bring in as many troops as they wanted. Those troops were not going to be able to move the mail.
What exactly are you doing?
I don't really know.
Do you think you're doing it as fast as a postal worker?
No, I don't. No. He must have his own little tricks because I can't find half the slots.
It was announced at a New York news conference, a 12% pay increase, quicker raises, no penalties for local union leaders like Gus Johnson of the letter carriers.
As a consequence of the hardships we have all endured, and because of the absolute pledges given us by many of our friends in Congress, I hereby urge and direct the members of Branch 36, National Association of Letter Carriers, to return to work.
When I heard on day 8 that we can go back to work, you know, everybody was cheering that we got the raise.
I think everybody was just proud to be back. And everybody was just wanted to be back and wanted to get back to be there to deliver mail for the people.
And people were happy. They were happy to get back to work. They were happy to know to the settlement that they won.
People talked about the money, but it was more than the money. It was much more than the money. The collective bargaining part was the major part of the whole strike.
Now we could sit down and really bargain. I mean, we could really talk. Our union, not only because of the strike, but our union with Vinny became very strong, very strong.
I had a carrier. He was a wonderful guy. He never took a day off. He never called and said, it's the kind of guy he was. He loved the Yankees, and he loved his job, and he was a dedicated worker. He said to me that he had been working at that time about maybe 28, 29 years. He said, I don't know what I'm doing. This is the first time I ever felt like a man. Because he was fighting for himself.